This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Shalom Aleichem, dear friends, good evening. We are continuing in Daf Hashavua, Masechta Nedarim, Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis. The Gemara is going on the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, V'toyrem es trumaisav, that if somebody is also to give hana to his friend, then you are allowed to take off truma for your friend. So now we have a very interesting shaila. Iboy. They had a question in the yeshiva. Hatoyrem mishaloi al shachaveroi. If you take off truma from your own produce onto your friend's produce, tzarich daitoi oiloi, do you need his dast or not? Basically, like this. You have two guys. Ruvain has, let's say, a pile of grain, and Shimon has a pile of grain, and let's say Ruvain wants to help out Shimon, so Ruvain's going to be mafresh from his grain in order to make Shimon's grain permitted. So the question is, does Ruvain need the das of Shimon? In other words, does Ruvain have to ask Shimon, can I do you this favor? Think about it. Ruvain's doing Shimon a very big favor over here. Shimon has grain. Normally he would have to give about 1/50th to the Kayin in order to eat his produce. Ruvain is giving 1/50th of that amount on behalf of Shimon. So what's the shaila? Is this considered, normally I can do things for you if they're good for you, right? We know there's a rule. Zachin la'adam shalai b'fanav. If I'm walking down the street and I see $1 million, I could pick it up for you and you own it. Zachin la'adam shalai b'fanav. Now the Gemara in Bava Metzia on Daf Beis learns out that you cannot take off truma for someone. That's talking about if I go into your field and take off truma from your produce onto your produce, where I'm not using my produce, I'm not saving you a lot of money by being mafresh truma from my stuff for your stuff. I'm going onto your field and taking off your own produce for you. So that you for sure can't do. We learned that out from the pasuk of Gamatem, that just like the owner could only do it with das, so too someone for the owner can only do it with das. The shaila in our Gemara is, I'm not doing it from your stuff for you, I'm doing it on my stuff for you. So what's the shaila? Mi amrina, do we say kiven des chasulai, since it's a benefit for the person, lo yitzarch das, you don't need his das. Or do we say mitzvah delay he? It's his mitzvah. Maybe he doesn't want you taking his mitzvah. On the one hand, you're saving him money. On the other hand, you're doing his mitzvah. He would like to do it himself. That is the shaila. Let's see the Ran. The Ran says, Yibayluhu hatoya mishalai al shachaveroi tzarach daitoi oiloi. Mi amrina, do we say kiven dezchusulai loy tzarach das? Why? Dezachin la'adam shaloi b'fanav. You could be zoicha for a person not in his presence, umistama havalei kashluchei, and we could presume he would have wanted you to be your shliach. Okay, so the Gemara says we're going to bring a proof from the Mishnah. Tashma, come in here. The Mishnah says toyrem es trumaisav es masroisav ladatai. You could take off truma and meiser with his das. So now we have to figure out who's taking off the truma, meaning which produce is being used, and whose das is needed. So Gemara says, what are we talking about? Ilema min balakri al shal balakri, if it means that from the owner of the pile on the owner of the pile, meaning if the truma is being taken off from the grain of the owner in order to fix his produce, uladaita deman. Okay, so with whose das? Ilema ladaita delay, if it means with his own das. What does it mean with his own das? Meaning the guy who's taking it off let's say I walk into your field and I take off truma from your field on your field. Let's say you have a pile of 50 kernels. I take off one from your produce to be able to rectify your produce. If ladato means I do it on my own, that obviously doesn't work. Man shav shliach, who pointed him a shliach. You can only do it with the person's das. Ella, so it can't be I did it on my own. Ella ladaita de balakri, it must be I did it with your das. But then it should not be effective because I'm not allowed to give you hana. The case in the Mishnah is that I made a neder, I'm not going to give you hana. So how could I do it with your das? Ella ladaita de balakri, hakama hanile, I'm giving you hana. Because I'm doing your shlichus. So it can't be I'm taking it off from your produce on your produce on my own, according to my das, who made me a shliach. Elamai, I'm doing it with your das. I can't be mahana you. Ela mishaloi al shel hakri. Must be the guy's taking off. I'm taking off from my produce to rectify your produce. With whose das? Uladaita deman. Ilema ladaita de balakri. If it's I'm doing it with your consent, and you asked me to do it, hakamahanili, I'm giving you hana. And the case is I made another, I'm not going to give you hana. Ela lav ladaita de nafshe, must be I'm doing it with my own das. I'm taking off from my produce to rectify your pile. That's a raya that I could take off truma for you without your das. Ela lav ladaita de nafshe, must be with his own das. Umishaloi toirem al shachaverai. And from his own produce, he could take off truma for his friend. Now, that means I could do it. So, meaning, I'm doing it on my own. I'm doing it on my own. Umishaloi tarma shachaverai. So, I'm taking off truma on my friend. Now, if you're going to say v'amrit tzarich das, if you're going to say, no, I'm doing it on my own, but I still need your permission. But then if I need your permission, how could I do it for you? I'm giving you hana, hakamahanile. Alalavein sarach das, it must be, I don't need your das, says the Ran. If I'm doing it with your das, the high toirem, because this guy is taking off truma, man shavi shliach. Who pointed him a shech da darshinan, we darshin him b'metzia ma'atem l'daitchem, just like the person himself has to do with das. Av shluchachem l'daitchem, the shliach has to do with das. Ela l'daitoi de balakri hamahani le de avid shlichusei. B'chol sha'oisa shlichusei harei mahaneo. Anyone who does a shlichus, you're giving hana. Ela adaita de nafshe. It must be you're doing it on your own. The toirem. And it's not considered giving you hana. The time v'loy chashvinan le mahana. It's not considered hana. Kiman demidaite of it. I'm doing it with das. V'loy yav la midei lemudar. I'm doing it. It's not considered giving you hana. I'm doing it on my own. V'loy yav le midei lemudar. I'm not giving you anything. So this is a raya to the shaila we had, that I could take off truma from my possession onto yours, because I'm being mezakeh to you, even though it's your mitzvah. Says Gemara, no. La'oila mishal balakri al balakri. The case is, I'm taking off truma from your stuff on your stuff. I miman of shach. If you didn't give me permission, then I'm not able to do it for you. And if you gave me permission, then how can I do it for you? I'm not able to give you hana. So the Gemara says a very rare case. La'oila mishal balakri al balakri. I'm doing it from your stuff for your stuff. Keda Amar Rava, like Rava said elsewhere. Ba'omer, you used an ambiguous form of shlichus. You said, Kal haroitze litroim yavoi v'yitroim. Anyone who wants to come take off truma from my stuff on my stuff could do so. So just like Rava said elsewhere, Kal haroitze litroim yavoi v'yitroim, hachanami here too, ba'omer, where you said Kal haroitze litroim yavoi v'yitroim. So in other words, it's not a violation of the conclusion of the Gemara B'Matzia that you can't take off truma from my stuff on my stuff without my permission, because you got my permission. I made this vague announcement. Anyone who wants to take off truma could do so. But it's not, so then the question is, so if I appointed you, then you're giving me hana that you did my shlichus. No, it's only a hana that you did my shlichus if I explicitly appoint you. But in this case, I didn't explicitly appoint you, I just revealed my mindset that I wouldn't mind if you did it for me. Look in the Ran, like midway through the page. Rava says it nearby in the Shaila of Rabbi Yirmiyah. In such a case, mahani legabe truma. It helps regarding truma. The begiloi das b'chud, by being megala das alone, the nichale, that you're pleased, sagi, it's enough. In such a situation, it helps legabe truma, because giloi das alone, that you're nicha, it's enough. Legabe mudar hana, regarding mudar hana, loy choshev mahana, it's not considered giving hana, since he didn't make him a shliach outright. So this quasi lashon that reveals that someone could act for you allows him to do it, and it's not considered not with your permission, but it's not considered that he is giving you hana because you didn't appoint him explicitly. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked Rabbi Zera, if you take off truma from your own possession onto your friend, toivas hana shalmi, who gets the benefit of the pleasure? Meaning, like this. I'm taking off truma to rectify your produce. So now it goes to the kohen. Who gets to choose which kohen it goes to? On the one hand, I'm the one spending the money. On the other hand, but it's for him. In other words, let's like this. I see a guy, he has a pile of grain. I want him to be able to eat it. So I'm mafresh truma for my stuff to fix his grain. Who gets to choose which kohen it goes to? You say, what does anyone get about choosing which kohen it goes to? Who does the kohen owe gratitude for? It actually has some value, even though Chazal prohibit the kohen from paying a Yisrael, from giving him truma. But let's say the kohen's grandfather, his maternal grandfather, is allowed to pay off another Yisrael, that Yisrael should give his grandson the truma. So who gets that benefit? Let's say he's willing to pay $10. The grandfather, the Yisrael grandfather. You could have a person who's Yisrael and he has grandchildren who are kohanim. So technically, you could make money giving truma by accepting money not from the kohen himself, but by somebody who has his interest in mind. Who gets the benefit of choosing which kohen it goes to? What's the shaila? We say, well, ilav peri dehech, if not for this guy's fruits, the one who's being mafresh the truma, mi metakna karya dahu, would the other guy's pile be rectified? In other words, it's all about the guy separating the truma. If he wouldn't have separated the truma, the other grain would not have been rectified. Or maybe ilav karya dahu, if not for the pile of grain that needs someone to be mafresh truma, like having paired hadin truma. The person who's giving the truma would not have what to be mafresh for. In other words, who do we view with the primary ownership of the truma? Well, on the one hand, the guy giving it. If he doesn't give it, then it's not truma. Then nothing is rectified. Or do we say, well, the ikar is the pile that needs to be rectified? Says the Gemara, Amar Le, Reb Zera said no question. Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Eis kol tfuas zarecha, all the grain of your planting, v'nosata, and you should give. So the pasuk, all the way at the end of the Parsha, of giving, is connected back to the grain that needs truma to be taken off for. And therefore we say the rights of giving are of the owner of the grain that you're being mafresh truma for. Even though that's not the literal meaning of the pasuk, because it's actually talking about when you're paida. Nevertheless, this is a drasha that vinasata. It says aser ta'aser is kol tvasarecha yitzah hasada shana, and then a few psukim later it says vinasata, so that the rights of giving belong to the owner of the grain that's being given for. Look in the Ran. HaTorah mishalei shechaveroi toivas hana shalmi koloymar mi zakoi b'nesinas truma. Who is zoiche in the giving of the truma? Zu toirem, the one who gives the truma, a balakri, or the owner of the grain. Shetei toivas hana shaloi, that the benefit of the hana belongs to him. Toivas hana sheyiten lo Yisrael, the toivas hana that the Yisrael gives him, that a Yisrael could give davar muat. A Yisrael could give a small amount, sheyitin oisa truma, that you should give that truma leben bitoy, to his grandson, the son of his daughter. Kayin is a kayin. The ilu kayin asar leila mesa midil Yisrael. Another kayin is prohibited to give Yisrael anything that he should receive truma kadei sheyitin like trumasai, because we know that a kayin is not even allowed to assist in the base hagranos. In other words, a kohen cannot assist the Yisrael in the silo that the Yisrael should. Oh, thank you so much. Here's my truma. So we're very cautious that a kohen doesn't provide any even minor service to Yisrael in order to get truma. But still, you still maintain certain benefits by giving truma to a particular kohen. Namely, if the grandfather is a Yisrael, he could pay you to give it to his grandson. We actually call a kohen who assists in the Beis Hagranos, Karinam Bey, Shechasam, Shichasam, Bris HaLevi, you corrupted the covenant of the Levi. So do we say the Iker Noisein is, the Iker Taivas Hana is the one who's spending the money on the Truma, because Ila Peri Dahadin, if not for his fruit, the Ran says, Shal Toira, of the one taking off the Truma. And the Gemara says, no, tvua sarech v'nasata. Tala, hanasina, it hinges the giving, the Baal Hazera, of the owner of the crop, the Hainu Baal Hakri. Fine. So that's the Shaila. Who is the main, who gets the benefit of giving the Truma? And the answer is the person separating it. Eisvei, we're going to question what Reb Zera said. Toirem es truma isav es masoisav ladatai. You're allowed to take off truma meiser with his knowledge. So what's the case? Presumably, I'm taking off truma from my field with your consent. Now, so, what did Reb Zera say? Reb Zera said that Reb Zera said, you know who gets the hana of truma, of the taivas hana? The owner of the pile of grain, meaning the one who the truma is taken off for, not the one taking it off. So the Gemara says, wait a second. It says, Toirem es trumaisav es masoisav ladatai. I could take truma and maisav from my possessions with consent. The amrid toivas hanad balakri. If you are the one who's getting the benefit of who the truma goes to, I am mafreshet for you. But like Reb Zera said, you're the one who chooses who it goes to. So then, hakamahanile, I'm benefiting you. Meaning, even if Ladato means I do it on my own, but if you're the one getting the Toivas Hana, I'm benefiting you. Ela Shmamina Toivas Hana delay. It must be the Toivas Hana belongs to him. Meaning, must be I get the Toivas Hana, otherwise I'm benefiting you. So Gemara says, no, Amri Lai. That's not the case. I'm not taking Truma from my stuff onto your stuff, if I was doing that, and I'm doing it with my own consent, so I'm not benefiting you, I would still be benefiting you, the Taivas Hana. You know what the case is? Mishal Balakri, Al Shabalakri, I'm taking from your stuff on your stuff. And how am I allowed to do it? Uladaiti the Balakri, I'm doing it with your das. If I'm doing it with your das, I'm mahana you? No, like we said earlier. The case is, we're ba'omer kol ha'roitz l'trim yavo v'yitrim. I'm not mahana you because you didn't appoint me, you just revealed in your mind that whoever wants to do it could go and do it. Look in the Ran, v'amred toivas hana l'balakri hakamahani shem zakeyu toirem l'balakri. The one thing of the truma is being mezakeh, the balakri, litain oisa truma, to give the truma, l'mi sheyirtza, to whoever he wants. V'shakal minei toivas hana, he's taking toivas hana, v'nimtza mahaneo mamish, it comes out you're actually being mahana him. Tashmad, Amar Rabbi Avohu, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Hamakdish, one who is makdish an animal. Basically the case is like this. You're chayiv to bring a carbon. And I'm makdish the animal for you. Now, let's say it needs to be redeemed. Normally, when an animal that's kosher needs to be redeemed, we say the owner has to add a fifth. Who's the owner here? The one who the carbon has to be brought for, or the one who's sanctified the animal? In other words, I know you have to bring a carbon, so I was makdish my sheep for you. And now, we know that when you redeem kachim, the owner has to add a fifth. So who's the owner? The one who sanctified the animal, or the one who the animal is being sanctified for? The Amar Rabbi Avo, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Hamakdish Moisev Chaimesh, the one who's makdish the animal adds a fifth. Umiskaper Oisa Temura. The makdish adds a fifth, but the one who it's holy for, he's the one who can make a temura on the animal. The halacha is, if you exchange one animal for another animal that's already kachim, the kachim is effective on the animal you exchange it for. But the din of temura is only the owner can make a temura. So we need to determine who's the owner regarding, we know the owner that redeems kachim adds a fifth, the owner that makes a temura, exchanges an animal of chulin for a kachim, the chulin takes on the kachim. These are two rules that apply to the owner. But who's the owner? If I'm makdish an animal for you. So regarding the din of adding a fifth, I'm the owner, I was makdish it. Legabe making temura, the one who it's brought for makes the temura. However, if I'm separate truma from mine for you, taivas hana shalai, I get the taivas hana. I was makdish it, I was mafresh it, I took up the truma from my stuff to you, so therefore I get the taivas hana, not like Reb Zera said. We said in the beginning there's a drasha, vinasata, that it goes on the owner of the balakri. No, we must be falling off of that. Look in the Ran. Hamakdish moisav chamish, hamakdish behema lekarbana, shachaver, one is makdish behema for the carbon of his friend, the humama, and it became a balmum v'roisel of doisa, and he wants to redeem it. Makdish karoi bailam, the one who is makdish it is called the owner. Le'inyan, regarding shetzarach lahoisav chamish, regarding adding a fifth, shahabailam bovad moisifin chamish, the bailam alone add a fifth, kishapoidin as kachayam, when you redeem the kachim. Hamiskaper oisa tmura, one who is atoned makes the tmura kalaymar, as if to say, aval inyan tmura hazoicha balatzar karbanai, meaning to say, regarding tmura, one who is zoich in it for the tzarech of his carbon, karoi ba'alim, is called the owner. umatfis temuraba. Regarding temura, one who's zoicha in it, in the carbon, for his carbon he's called the owner, and he has the ability to be matfis the temura. But the one who sanctified it does not have the ability to effectuate temura. Aval makdish lai uvetemura yalef lo mikrai. We learn that from Sukkim. So the Brisa says toivas hanashaloi of the Toireim. The pasuk vinasata. The aser to aser is called tvaz arecha vinasata. It's going on aser to aser. Give meiser vinasata. The maser, if you give meiser, you'll be zoicha to give. Okay, so now we're up to a new sugya. The Mishnah said that if you're aser bahana, you could be melamed Torah. You could be melamed Torah. In other words, if you're aser bahana, the halacha is you could be melamdei medrash, halacha and agada, but lo yilamdenu mikra. So the question is, why could you teach medrash but not mikra? Melamdei medrash halacha zagas, av lo yilamdenu mikra. My time Allah yilamdenu. Why can't you teach a mikra? Because mishum de kamahani le, because you're mahanim. Medrash nami kamahani. You're mahanim when you teach a medrash. Amar Shmuel b'makom shenoitlen schar ala mikra, noitlen schar ala medrash. In a place where normally people get paid for teaching mikra, but don't get paid for teaching medrash. So I can't teach him mikra because I'm teaching him and I'm not charging him, and it's something that usually people pay for. But people don't usually pay for medrash, so I could teach him medrash. So Gemara says, my paska. Then it's not a fundamental difference. Why would the Mishnah say, you could teach him medrash, but you can't teach him mikra? You can't teach anything if you get paid for it, and if you don't get paid for it, you could teach him both. This is not a real difference. We happen to be talking about a case where they charge for one kind of learning and not the other. Okay, we'll hold it over here. We're going to continue in this Be'ez Hashem next week, okay? Thank you very much. Tonight we had the regular Chumash here because there's a wedding tomorrow night, so that's why the Gemara Shiur was later. Okay? Hatzlacha, ubracha. Hashem should watch over everyone. Shafa bracha v'atzlacha. Kol tov. Good night. Good night.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.